So today I'm going to be explaining how it's possible to get all 10 cultural heritages on the same country. We're using debug mode for this because the strategies we're going to be using to get the final heritage are insanely difficult to pull off in a real game, so we need to use debug mode to accomplish it. So of course we're going to be using Turtle Island. If we just wait a little bit, we get the nations of Turtle Island. We're going to quickly run a command which will let us proclaim Turtle Island now. And this lets you offer confederation to a country, and it will take one of their primary cultures, as well as annexing them. But in order to offer confederation, you have to share a cultural heritage with that country. So this leaves us in a thing where we need to find countries that have multiple cultural heritages, such as Darfur, which has Middle Eastern heritage and African heritage. Quick note, the country you annex is not necessarily within these strategic regions. You just need a country in these strategic regions to fulfill the objective, and then the country annexes isn't necessarily within that. You do have to fulfill the other requirements though, like I've given myself Javan primary culture for this example, and conquered the state adjacent to them and gotten high relation. So to get out of Indigenous American, there's two options. We'll show quickly the Greenland option, which is because Greenland has Danish and Inuit, which is indigenous. We should have actually released them as a subject and then granted them that state, but this is what you need to do. Then you offer confederation, it's going to give you Inuit. Then you re-release them, grant them the state, and this time it will give you Danish, which means we've bridged the gap into European heritages. But going one by one like this for every single heritage would be a little bit of a waste of time, so instead I've got this handy-dandy graph here with every single heritage except for Indigenous Oceanic and how to get to it. But this leaves us with the question of how do we get to Indigenous Oceanic, which is a significantly difficult challenge, and this is where I was stuck for months. The red is just used to show that these are two separate lines. If you want more info on how you can get these heritages of the original 9, you can watch my 1 billion GDP speedrun or my 100 billion GDP run, which both go into this a little bit more. So initially when I was theory crafting about this months ago, I thought this was going to be pretty simple. You just go do Australian Federation as something like United Tribes, and then that should hopefully give you Australian culture, but unfortunately this does not turn out to be successful. Oh, we need one more state real quick. And then we can see here, it will make us a dominion, but it does not give us Australian primary culture, unfortunately. But then, I get a comment in one of my videos saying that after they followed my instructions and conquered Mara, and then got cut down to size, it gave it their primary culture instead of the primary culture of the country they were releasing. And this seemed very promising to me. So I decided to see if it was true by, for example, conquering Uruguay. Then we expelled the diplomats of the whole world so that we can have enough infamy to be cut down to size real quick. Just need to expel a couple of diplomats. Then we stop onto a great power, and we declare on ourselves to cut them down to size. And when we do it, they do indeed have Hawaiian culture. Now you might be wondering how that helps us at all, since we're still trapped in oceanic heritage, right? You'd be wrong about that, because there's lots of country-specific events which can add or remove primary cultures, so I looked through a lot of these to try and find one that could apply to our situation. There's a lot that don't work for us, such as the South American nationalism events, but there's a couple that do work, such as the Indian breakup event when they get independence from the British, which gives them Bengali primary culture. However, it only removes English primary culture, so if they were, say, Hawaiian primary culture, and then that event triggered, they would become Hawaiian and Bengali. So let's quickly demonstrate this. I'm just going to command annex all the states of British East India Company except for one, which will leave them with just that one state, and then we will conquer that final state and then get cut down to size. Or not command annex, we're just holding down Control and Alt and clicking. Of course, in a real game, you'd have to do a lot of stuff to conquer all these states, but it's theoretically possible. Then we need to, oh, we don't have an interest there, I guess. So let's just put in fast interests, and then in a day, we will be able to declare for the state. Wait, why can we not? Okay, apparently a day was just not long enough. Anyway, we have yes minute on, so they will just accept this demand, and they should no longer exist. Yep. So now we can simply expel diplomats of the whole world, and then get cut down to size. Expel diplomats of everyone in the planet. Free infamy. Play Great Britain, cut Hawaii down to size. Now it's only going to give them the one state because the rest we command annexed, but if you look here, East India exists and it's Hawaiian primary culture. But now if we just wait a little bit, they will get the breakup event and become Bengal. It is simply a matter of time. Yep, there we go. Bengal with Hawaiian and Bengali primary cultures. Now you might be wondering how we get the rest of the primary cultures, and the answer is we go back to Turtle Island by, say, conquering these 3 states and then release and playazing Metis, except we actually need to finish colonizing the state. And then from here, you just do normal Turtle Island stuff. However, before you annex Bengal, you need to make sure you already have Bengali culture, because otherwise it's possible that it will give you that culture instead of Hawaiian, which would ruin the run. And you can use Kuch Bahar in order to get Bengali first. If you're actually trying to pull this off in a real game, you should use the Dutch East Indies instead of using India, because it's going to be way easier to actually conquer the whole thing, and you should end up getting the exact same result. Here's a quick time lapse of me getting every single cultural heritage using the debug mode stuff, but of course all this stuff is theoretically possible to do normally, almost very fast. Yeah, that's the end of the video. Got every single heritage as a primary culture.